Welcome to the Luke Branquinho Show. Our next guest is somebody that is an accomplished rodeo athlete in the arena, but also an accomplished podcaster and has her own podcast, In the Loop. Jo Hollabaugh, thank you for finally coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm finally glad we got to schedule this. I stood you up a couple times, but we're not going to talk about it.
Right. Well, I haven't got to be on your podcast either, so I'm glad you came on mine first.
Me too.
So I want to talk about, obviously, your podcast, but first I want to talk about breakaway roping and the impact it's had on your life, but also how it's grown in leaps and bounds in the last few years, really.
It's crazy. I look back to 2019 was really the first year that it all took off, and Cheyenne Frontier Days put it in their rodeo at the pro rodeo level. Fort Worth, Stock Show and Rodeo.
So I'm gonna stop you real quick because you were the Cheyenne champ that year, the inaugural breakaway roping champ at the Cheyenne Frontier Days. Okay, continue.
Oh. Yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. So that was the first year it really took off. And I sit here, we're in 2024, looking back on just now I think we have 500 pro rodeos. We have an NFBR. We're getting equal money. Every chance we look up, we're being featured. So many events have put us in place. Really, it's just crazy how fast it's grown. I know as a breakaway roper, you sit here and you're like, I want more, because we're demanding, we're women. But it's really come really, really fast. And really, when you look back on the progress we've made as women in professional rodeo and breakaway ropers and all the things, it's pretty incredible. So we have a lot of opportunities now. One of the biggest things coming up for us is the Kimes Ranch $1 Million Breakaway. So we're actually, one of our big dreams as breakaway ropers has been to get to compete at the Thomas and Mack and have that money. You guys, you're the little booty shaking you got to do at the NFR and all those things. Like 20,000 would make me shake my booty too, right? So,
right.
We're getting to do that this year in Scottsdale, Arizona. So that's a pretty cool event. Rope for $1 million at 10 rounds at an average. So I just hats off to everybody who's come alongside. There's breakaway ropers everywhere. They breed like rabbits. It's been a whirlwind for sure.
So obviously the $1 Million Kimes Ranch in Scottsdale, right? Mm-hmm. And that is November. That's right. Maybe a week or 2 or 3 before the national finals.
Yeah. So we'll go to the Kimes Ranch $1 Million Breakaway, and then we'll finish up with there. And then I think 2 days later, our NFBR starts. So it's going to be a pretty jam-packed full week. Cool couple weeks. Yeah.
Is that, and I don't want to say it's a slap in the face, but kind of hey, why can't you guys do this at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas when we could do it right here in little old Scottsdale with one sponsor?
I think that obviously there's so many moving parts that we can't control, and we wish we could, but we can't. But it's, instead of a slap in the face, I would say what an opportunity that we have 2 different people giving us the opportunity to rope. And, yes, I think our lifelong dream is that, but at the end of the day, we're going to get to back in the box for $25,000 rounds 10 times in a row, which is unheard of. And I honestly, we've talked about it, but I never really thought it would come true. And it's I'm pinching myself hey, we're getting this opportunity because Kimes Ranch footed up, $1 million. So I think it's amazing that we're getting the chance. I hope that everybody wants to step up and be like, hey, you're not going to beat me, and then, wouldn't it be cool if we got 2 NFRs to run out for $1 million? Then guys would even want to breakaway rope, but
don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't open that door because I will crack back out. I will get a long rope and I will throw it.
I fear not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not scared of that, are you?
Honestly, I don't know. I would say I'd be scared of you in all the ways, especially your pants and your booty shaking. The fans would love you in the breakaway roping, but I'm sure you would find a way.
It looked like I have worms.
You didn't think it looked awkward when you were doing it without a saddle?
Oh, yes, I did. Thanks for, I don't even know why I talked about. Anyways, so let's go back to the breakaway roping for $1 million. And how many get to compete at it?
So they're taking the top 10 in the world. that are automatically seeded going into the finals for 24. And then they are doing this qualifier thing, 25 girls total. So 15 qualifiers, 10 world standings girls, and they're going to hash it out. But I tell you what, one of the things I'm most impressed with in the breakaway roping is there's like 10-year-olds that are sending me videos and they're being won. I mean, like
Wow.
I think I was like 1 3 years ago, and I like did a huge happy dance, maybe even like yours. But I mean, seriously, like I was 30 years old before I was 1 second, and these girls are 10 years old doing it already. So at any stage, at any level, the Kimes ranch is open to anybody. So I'm excited to see all the girls that are going to show up from all walks of life, all ages. But there are girls all around the world from all ages that can stick it on the breakaway roping. And I think that's pretty neat for our sport.
Well, and you think about it, I mean, in life and in anything, we evolve and get better. We've seen it and I like to say the bull riding, especially because the bulls are getting ranker. So these guys have to get even ranker than the bulls. We've seen it in the barrel race with young kids, going around the barrels and kicking butt, but really focusing now, seeing in the breakaway roping, because I feel like breakaway horses are easier to not say easier to come by, but now you have a lot of the calf roping horses that won't pull the rope, won't work the rope. So now they're transitioned over into breakaway horses, so giving more opportunity for people to get their hands on them. And then the kids are just obviously machines. They're practicing harder, they're roping more because of the money that's up there, and horsepower has a lot to do with that.
Oh man, and I mean, you and I both feed greatness, right? But it's I would say that 3 years ago you were seeing a lot of the calf rope and rejects that, like you said, were not pulling the rope, doing all those things. Now, literally, I think the calf ropers have a vendetta for us because we're getting those horses that they want, and we're being real stingy. We're not sharing. So we're the horsepower in the breakaway roping is phenomenal. I would say it's the closest thing I could compare bulldogging to, because your guys' horses had to score, just shot dogs, ruthless, be on a dime, and you guys had to be, 3 seconds or less. And we're the same way as far as our horses have to score and get across that line as fast as they can. There's not a horse I wouldn't throw my leg over and be able to expect to win something on. And that's unheard of. So I would just say that the horsepower in the breakaway roping is phenomenal. I feel bad for all the guys because we're stealing their horses, but so sad for them.
Well, you talking about horses, and I'm like Haven and Shelby. They use that same horse for, obviously Haven tie down roping, Shelby breakaway roping, and what that horse has helped help them in their career just this year and last year. It's pretty cool to be able to see that horse obviously go from where Shelby just throws a rope, it snaps and they're done, to Haven throwing his rope, stepping off, tying down. So yeah, horsepower is key, and to have a horse similar to that is pretty neat.
I think one of the coolest things about Shelby and Haven is they're the biggest competitors ever. And even with each other, they definitely make each other step up. Like, I'm sure, outside of the arena, they might give each other a hug or something, but inside of the arena, they are like competing. It's really been really neat for me to see Haven and Shelby both like synchronize their skills and their strengths with each other. And you can see it in both of their styles of roping. And, man, they're the elite of the elite. And I think I learn a lot from them. I watch them both time, and it's really neat to see the horsemanship that they've both have and brought into breakaway roping and tie down roping. It's pretty cool.
Well, and having your significant other like that with those two, obviously competing not against, obviously two different events, but with and driving, pushing to be the best. We see that with them, and that just helps elevate them so much more.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm fortunate. I don't know if my husband likes me because I'm a breakaway roper now, or he's thinking maybe that was a bad idea. But, my husband's been to the NFR 7 times. And so one of the things he says constantly is, he says, I wish I would be where I'm at mentally now, but still be able to do this and have the ability. I don't think any cowboy ever that's competed would quit unless they absolutely have to. But he's helped me tremendously. I think, avoid some of the biggest challenges that he's been through, because he's like, hey, this is what's going to happen if you continue to do this. And the first couple times I was like, yeah, right, you don't know what you're talking about. And I, did it and fell anyway. So that was smart. But when you have somebody else, and you yourself know how much it takes mentally, physically, emotionally, all year long, realistically, it takes somebody that, you see the competitor in the arena, but if you really saw who was behind the arena keeping that competitor together day in and day out, they deserve a gold buckle too.
Well, when we come back on the Luke Branquinho Show, more with Jordan Jo Hollabaugh, and I want to touch a little bit more on the behind the scenes. Welcome back to the Luke Branquinho Show. We have an accomplished breakaway roper and a podcaster herself, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh. Jordan, thanks again for coming on the show. When we went to break, we were talking about behind the scenes. You're talking about your husband, Raymond, and him helping you try not to make the mistakes that he may have made in his career. And how important of a role is that to have?
I don't even think you can put it into words. At this level, when we get out here, I feel like we're all very talented in similar ways, right? And it comes down to the mental game so much over and over and over again, and how your perception is and how you show up every day that you back at the box and do your job. And so he's helped me with that tremendously. There's been lots of growing pains. Poor guy. He's had to go through quite a bit, but you know what? It really is surreal to sit down and think, like, we get to live this life. Rodeo has given us everything that we have. And will we be able to compete in the arena forever? No. But it's just the lifestyle that's given us, the friendships, the community. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life and probably ever will do. But every day I am grateful for the opportunity. So without him, I would not be here. I couldn't do this by myself. I would definitely be like in a straitjacket, not sane, which I don't know how sane I am anyway, but it would be really hard without him.
Well, and so we talk about breakaway roping really ramping up last 5 years, but it's not like you guys you just all of a sudden we're not rodeo, or we're all of a sudden rodeoing. You guys have been rodeoing for years. It was just in a smaller venue, smaller settings, not the added money, not I guess the prestigious rodeos having you guys involved in. And now here we are 5 years later, and boom, we're at the elite. We're at the best rodeos. Calgary, obviously not in the Stampede, but you guys get to compete there. Cheyenne stepped up to the plate. And we've seen it with the American and the WCRA. They kind of were the forefront of women's breakaway roping and paying out as much as they were.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the WCRA and the American were one of the first to give us that shot. And the WCRA said, hey, if we're going to have breakaway, we're going to do it equally as everybody else. Jackie Crawford was one of the forefronts there and always will be. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many people that have said, and I think this goes back to, I appreciate that they appreciate us as women, as competitors, but we all have daughters, sisters, mothers, grandmothers, all the things. Like, women are a huge part of everyday life. And so knowing that they have given us that same platform, that same chance to do what we want to do and strive to be better competitors every day. That's one of the coolest things I think I've seen is really when I got out here 5 years ago, pro rodeoing, I had no idea. Felt like I was a rookie. I still feel like I'm a rookie some days. It's nothing that you can be taught. You have to do it. But it's like I really feel like we've learned to step up and be professionals in and out of the arena. And it's a learned thing. And I really think that's cool to see these ladies come in and these young girls that are coming in to become professionals. And what does it take? And how do you act? How do you talk? And all these things. So that's been cool. But, one of my good friends is Jamie Markham. And I've asked her to be on my podcast, so you need to get her on yours. But she's real stingy. She doesn't want to talk about it. But like, she would tell me, they amateur rodeoed when they were in their 20s and 30s, and there'd be 9 girls there at the breakaway roping. I mean, so this has been going on for so long, and the passion that these women have had that went before us, I think I appreciate, the older I get, which I don't want to age myself too much, but the older I get, the more I appreciate those forerunners and people that pioneered the way for us. And we're doing that for these young girls coming up behind us too, because without them, we wouldn't have this chance. And some of those ladies that did this for us didn't get that chance, and they still did it, so that's really neat for me.
Well, Jamie Markham, Larry D. Guy and JJ Hampton, those girls, women really helped push the sport to where it was and further. And, you talk about, you still feel like a rookie. When I started, I tried to put myself in the best situation. I got in a group with, a trek with guys that had been rodeoing, that knew how to get up and down the road. And then the older I got, which I'm obviously not going to tell you my age because everybody knows I'm old, but, the older I got, I would always bring in young kids for a couple reasons. One, I needed them to do the late night shift driving, number one,
100%.
but to help them kind of understand, like I did, this is the path you have to go down. Yes, here's the bump in the road. You could almost anticipate a bump in the road before you even get to that part of the road, if you've rodeoed as long as we have. And to be able to help share that knowledge with those young kids and help them progress and get better in the sport, I think only helps elevate the sport as a whole.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things I've learned when I got in here that was naive was I was like, I didn't want the bumps in the road, right? I didn't want to have bad days. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to mess up, right? And it's like now I listened to a podcast the other day that Kobe Bryant did before he passed, and this blew my mind. He was like, the guy asked him, he said, how do you feel about failure, about losing? And he said, this is what he said, excited. And I was like, what? What's wrong with this guy? And he's like, I'm excited because it points out exactly what I've done wrong and exactly where I can improve. And so I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is, yes, there's undoubtedly going to be bumps in the road. You can guarantee it. And it's like, instead of dodging those bumps, embracing them and trying to be like, all right, how did I get here? What do I do to get out of it? And keep on going. And that's the biggest thing I think I've learned rodeoing is inevitably there is going to be guaranteed bumps no matter what. There's different kinds, but when he said that he was excited about it. So the last few weeks, I'm like, when I've hit those bumps, I'm like, okay, I'm excited. I'm so excited about this,
I'm so excited. I just can't stop
it. Yeah.
Well, but to that point, it makes perfect sense. And I've never thought of it that way. But when I didn't succeed, and similar to you, I'm sure if you didn't succeed, you're like, okay, why didn't I succeed? This is where I went wrong. We fix it. We change it. Now we move on and have success that we feel like we needed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's just finding one of the things that works for me is staying in my lane, finding my groove, because everybody's so different out here, and I think it's embracing that we're all different, but we're all great at the same time. And that's okay. You don't have to be like everybody else. So yeah, everybody's, they talk about rookies, but every year I still feel like a rookie in some form or fashion, except for I don't do the late night drives. Like you said, I'm getting smarter. I don't enter that way anymore.
You got somebody do that for you? You got somebody do that for you?
Raymond.
Yeah, you have to have those. You have to have those late night drivers. And in fact, even the older I got, I didn't do the late night driving. I didn't do the morning driving. Maybe a shift right after lunch, but depends on how much I ate, because then if I get too full, I get a little sleepy. But I was, the last year I rodeo with a great crew, and I think my driving scared them where they didn't want me to drive. So I had that going for me.
That's what I did. I took your tactic. Like, I swerved a couple times intentionally. They thought I was a bad driver. So now I'm like, I'll just keep you awake and you drive, and I will sit over here and talk. So
rumble strips. It's like driving by Braille. Right?
100%.
Yeah, I mean that's the classic get out of driving method ever, and you just hit the rumble strip.
We can't help it. We're smarter than them.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. So you got Ellensburg this weekend. Then there's some more things coming up. I've heard, obviously, the Governor's Cup in South Dakota. The last two, you got Puyallup, the Governor's Cup, and a couple big ones in between. We'll talk about Pendleton, but then there's one in Mandan, North Dakota, that is on the books, and Jackie Crawford actually just told me about that one. That's kind of another big, paying, exciting event for you guys.
Oh, it's huge. I think they're adding 30,000 in the Breakaway this year, 60,000 in the other events, and to have that chance at the end of September is huge. I think they're going to pay 8 monies. It's going to be an $8,000 to $10,000 hit for somebody. It's going to be a great day. 35 girls, 36 girls. So, I mean, there are so many things coming our way that it's just like you really can't even go home, or you don't want to go home because there's so many good opportunities. But yeah, I mean, to know that we have, next year it'll be bigger and better and all the things. This year we have, the end of the season is almost bigger than the beginning of the season. And so it's really all anybody's game all throughout the year. But yeah, to know that we have that deal at Mandan coming up, we have Sioux Falls, we have Puyallup, we have Pendleton, Ellensburg, all the things. September went from being like a really tough time to being a time you look forward to, you're excited about, and way to finish the year off strong.
Well, Raymond, your husband would remember this. It used to be October was the exciting time of year, and then they moved the season back. I could remember San Francisco, the Cow Palace was the last rodeo. That and Kansas City were the same weekend, and it was always Halloween. So you'd get to spend Halloween in San Francisco, which that's a treat in itself, if you could imagine. And then in Kansas City. But now with September being the exciting month and coming up soon, because we're dang near to September, where are you at? Are you happy with where you're at in the standings?
I am, top 10 right now. Obviously would like to be a little higher. I'm proud of what we've accomplished so far. Not done yet. And excited about the opportunities that we've had. I've learned a lot of things this year. Obviously lots of ups and downs, and just excited to finish it off and see where we end up.
Well, we got to go to break right now. When we come back, I want to speak to Jo Hollabaugh about the In the Loop podcast. Welcome back to the Luke Branquinho Show. Our guest today, Jo Hollabaugh, NFR Breakaway roper, the inaugural Cheyenne Stampede, Cheyenne Frontier Days, I don't know why I said Stampede, champion breakaway roper, the very first champion breakaway roper at Cheyenne, and an accomplished podcaster. Jordan, I know that podcasting is kind of getting big, with yourself, myself, Coleman Proctor, which his guests don't get a word in edgewise.
Ever.
I love you, Coleman. Yeah, that's why we feed greatness, because we do the pre-show there at Vegas. So, but talk to me about that, because I have learned a ton about speaking to people and carrying on conversation that I thought I was really good at. But this podcasting stuff, it gets interesting.
Well, I think it's just like anything else, right? We're competitors. And so it's not ever good enough for us. Like, we got to go back. And how could I have asked a better question? And for me, it started out of, I wanted to tell the stories of all these amazing women and men that I met out here on the road and through rodeo and share that. But then it became like, how do I get the most out of these people? Because when you hit record and the camera comes on, people are like,
Oh yeah.
And so it's like it's really an art interviewing, and it's funny. And I'm sure, I don't know if you feel the same way too, but as people will ask me to be interviewed, it's hard for me because I'm like, wait, I want to be in control and I want to ask you the questions. Don't ask me questions. I don't want to know what's not coming. But yeah, I think for me, it's I've taken it on as just another endeavor of how can I be the best interviewer I can? How can I share this story and really share it across to people to know that there's somebody else out there like you. I think sometimes we look at these competitors in and out of the arena and we think they are something else. But at the end of the day, we're all humans. We put our pants on the same way. Some of us jump up and down. I might swaddle a little bit, but at the end of the day, we all are. And so I think for me, it's just trying to convey that message the best I can and get the best interview I can for my audience.
Well, and I think too, for me, it was trying to get away from, it more conversational, but have an interesting conversation to the fans that are watching the show right now. Something that they don't see, on the Cowboy Channel. They see you compete. They might get a, 10-second interview clip and you're on your way. Now you get to share stories, whether it's in the arena, outside the arena, traveling, personal, family. You're able to share those stories with the fans of rodeo and hopefully fans that aren't fans of rodeo yet. That's what really intrigues me about doing it, is trying to go grab more fans and draw it to our sport.
Well, and I think that that's something I'm new to, because the more I do this, I saw the other day, and it's a humbling thing, right? But at Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, we were riding on the box, and Shelby Medjid didn't do any good there. Some little kid comes up to her and he's like, "Hey, would you sign my hat?" And I just, like, we made eye contact right there, and just to know we have fans now, and that's so cool. As a breakaway roper, I grew up watching you shake your butt, on national
wait.
television.
Why you make it sound like you're that much younger than me?
Because I am. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like I knew you had fans. I knew that the Cowboys had fans, but to know that we're becoming a part of that and we're having fans, like it put a new perspective on it. So now it's like, how many people do they know that don't know about rodeo? And like you said, how can we bring them in and make a difference in our sport and help it grow? Because I don't know very many people that have ever been to a rodeo that haven't enjoyed it or taken away something from it and become a lifelong fan. So I agree with you there. It's like, how can we bring more people in? And that's a challenge within itself.
Well, I think it also, for me, has helped doing live interviews for the PBR on CBS Sports, WCRA stuff, which I think I got to interview one time. Where was that at? Guthrie, right?
Yeah, it was, because I told you that I thought it was ironic how you pulled your hat down before you did an interview, like you were fixing a bulldog something. I was like, okay, we're good. I feel you.
I still do that. Yes, like I go do an interview, I just suck it down. Like, oh, wait a second, I don't have to make my brain hurt. But it's helped me tremendously, just asking questions and talking, and it's even harder when you have a big camera in front of your face that says CBS Sports or something on it. That's stuff that I really thought about. Now I could just ask a question, enjoy doing it, and not worry about anything else. And I feel like me doing these podcasts and shows, I'm able to communicate better now with people and understand how to, how to get through to them. Like you said, sometimes you get in front of people with a camera or like this, and they just, yes, no, maybe, so try to get through and feel how to make them communicate.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things too is Raymond will always ask me, like, when I have you on my show when I get home in October.
Me?
But he'll say,
Nice.
what did Luke say? And I'm like, I have no idea, because I can't think about what Luke is saying. I've got to continue on, like, trying to find a piece of some part of the conversation that you say that's going to lead into my next question or things like that. And so then I have to go back and listen to the podcast and be like, oh, okay, that's what I could have done, this or I could have done that. Oh, that was good. But yeah, for me, I'm like, I have to stay so focused on like what you're saying and where that's going to lead to the next question. Like, I've had to take myself out of the realm of like the actual conversational, because then it's like you answer my question and then I'm like, cool, what are we going to talk about now?
I found myself doing that a lot, and even when we have great conversations like with you, I'm listening to you. I'm like, yes, and then next question. But speaking of that, this has been so good. We actually ran out of time, and we're going to have Jordan Joe back on the show again. So, Jordan, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. For all you folks out there, please go and listen to In the Loop podcast by Jo Hollabaugh. I promise it will not disappoint you. You will enjoy it thoroughly and become a fan of one of the greatest breakaway ropers in the business.
Well, thank you. I've appreciated it. I had a great time today. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching the Luke Branquinho Show.